What's this?
What's this? It's the jacket.
The jacket.
The jacket. I took off Rocco DeMeo.
Oh, yeah.
Cocksucker had the toughest reputation in Essex County, but he never came back after I got through with him.
He later died of Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah?
Driver. It's your fucking jacket.
You love this jacket. You and my kid brother, you would have killed for this jacket. Silk lining, fine Corinthian leather. Nobody believed with my size I could carry this jacket. But what the belt? It was like Rommel.
It's a nice jacket.
It's a beautiful jacket.
It is a beautiful jacket. The jacket. Welcome to Cut to Black, a Sopranos sit down. We discuss an episode of Sopranos every week, and this week we are at Full Leather Jacket, season 2, episode 8?
Yes.
I am Jim Scampoli.
I'm Jacob Burrows, and I could only dream of having such a jacket in my life, and one day I hope we all shall. Like you said, I really thought when you said last week, oh, you're never going to look at the words the jacket the same way, I thought the jacket must be important to the plot of this episode, huh? But I guess it is in its way, but it's not like anyone got shot over the jacket.
No. I mean, okay. Well, real quick, Full Leather Jacket was written by Robin Green and Mitchell Burgess. They're a married couple. We've heard their names before. We'll hear their names again. Also directed by Alan Coulter, who is another name we've heard before. We'll hear again. These are people that have written double digits or directed double digits worth of Sopranos episodes. And I believe Mitchell Burgess and his wife, Robin Green, were nominated for 11 Emmy Awards for The Sopranos, and they won 3 of them.
Holy shit. Well, this wasn't one of them, though, right? Because we already know there's an earlier one this season that won all. You can only get one per season, right? That's how it works?
Yeah, I don't know how it works because, well, I mean, I guess as an actor, like Gandolfini can get nominated for a specific episode as an actor, but couldn't a writer get nominated for a different episode for writing?
These are things we should probably know. We run a TV podcast. But yes, we're to discuss Full Leather Jacket, which is also the shortest episode of The Sopranos in the world. Am I right?
Yes, it is. I guess, 43 minutes? Or just under 43 minutes?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like standard for more like, I guess, a network show. HBO shows can range like anywhere from, I guess, 43 to like 52 or something like that. Or if you're Westworld, they're like, we're just doing 1 hour and 5 every episode for no reason.
Jim, they only feel like that. They're not actually that long. But okay, do you want to just go through from the beginning, maybe?
I want to just talk about the jacket first. So,
of course you do.
I mean, it is like a common thing because I always thought it was funny, just like the way he says it and the way he brings it up. But I have noticed now that I'm like more in the Sopranos social media spheres, this is a common quote that everyone brings up and references because, he just nails it. But like, I mean, obviously, so for Tony, he doesn't like this jacket because it reminds him of I was like young, dumb Tony who looked up to this guy, Richie Aprile. And that's also why Richie likes the jacket, because it's this reminder of how he took it off Rocco DeMeo, the toughest guy in Essex County. No one thought he could do it, but he did. So it's obviously this passive aggressive, like, remember when memento, right?
Well, I didn't read it that way. Also, I was too busy wondering when he headed over to Essex in the UK. I can only assume there is a like you took the name, like you take everything for your names in the US. But yeah, no, that does make sense, though. I didn't read that at all. I was like surprised this episode, and I guess combining it with the past few episodes, it felt like, wow, Richie's really trying, and Tony's being kind of a dick.
Well, because see, that's the thing. Like, that's how I think I definitely read Tony's reaction to it that way. Like, well, I mean, plus it's just an ugly old jacket. Like, why would he want to wear it? It's not flattering on him when he wears it. But I guess my read is, Tony doesn't want to wear it because it is this reminder of like how tough Richie was, I guess. And how because he mentions like you and my kid brother, would kill for this jacket. Like it's like a time when they looked up to him. But then again, I'm not so sure if Richie's aware of what he's doing. Although I do feel like it's purposeful. I do think Richie thinks he's being a nice guy, or maybe I'm just looking way too into this jacket.
Well, no, it's called Full Leather Jacket, the episode. So, I mean, it's important. We're going to talk about it the whole episode. I feel like he is. I mean, I thought it was all bullshit when he was doing yoga when he was first back. Well, kind of, you know, but he is a lot more zen since he's been together with Janice, not Parvati anymore, but Janice. And he seems really mellow in these past couple episodes. And even when he beat up. I guess I lost track of all the people he's been beating up and whatnot. But after the executive card game, he didn't go over that after that guy that Tony told him not to go after, and he did sort of step back a bit, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, from the way things have played out, because it hasn't been a thing that Tony's like steaming about. And yeah, I think they've gone out of their way to show that there are these scenes where they kind of break balls with each other, but it's not as intense as what we saw when Richie first got on the scene, and he was reminding him like, I'm the motherfucking fucking one that calls the shots and all that. Like there's a quick scene, I think it was in the last episode, where they just kind of joking at the party, like, oh, hey Richie, you know, don't steal the furniture or whatever he says to him.
Yes.
Yes. So there's just little sniping, but yeah, and then even earlier before the jacket, they're just kind of talking about a bootleg deal. They're getting, you know, he had The Mummy before it was even in theaters, and you know, make these Nigerians on the street look like, you know, small time. These are like full Hollywood movies. So it does seem like the relationship's a lot better. But I feel like deep down Richie knows what he's saying here with this fucking jacket. Even though, yes, he's kind of being a nice guy, and I also get Richie's side of it when he's insulted that he's not wearing the jacket. And the reason why Richie knows deep down is because every scene from and then on, he's always asking Tony where the jacket is. He's for no reason. He's like, why are you not wearing the jacket? Meanwhile, no one's wearing jackets. And the moment, and he's like, where's the jacket? He's like, it's in the car. I don't. What do you want? Like, you want the jacket back? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's not like Tony's there like, brr, brr, so cold. It is pretty warm, it seems like. And yeah, you're probably right. There's also all this business with the ramp, of course. And, you know, reading from that, he is kind of insulted. Like, what, you want me to buy a ramp? Because it seems ridiculous. It seems like that's really him, like, a sign. It's like they say on Tony's side, like, it's a symbol, you know, just a symbol of friendship. But for him, it's like, that's a symbol of me bending over backwards and showing you my ass and whatnot, as I'm sure he says in his mind. But he still sends guys over to do it. And then it's not really his fault that they're so dumb that they just tear up the place and leave. Oh, no, yeah, he did say, oh, no, I had to have them come over work on my house real quick. You know, your mother's house where I live. So maybe he does know what he's doing.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, we'll back it up. We'll dip back into it as we go through the episode. This episode does start out with just a more normal Sopranos dinner. They're eating some Chinese takeout, and we get some information that Hunter Scangarelli got into her first choice for early acceptance.
And I thought that was them, like, because she explains it so thoroughly, Carmilla, like, no, but it's only if you apply early that you can get the thing. And I thought later when we get the thing in the mail, I thought it was, you know, oh, it's been revealed that Hunter only early applied to Berkeley or wherever she wants to go. Is that it? Yeah.
Oh, Meadow, yeah. Meadow just didn't apply and only applied to Berkeley.
Yeah, Meadow, I meant.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some funny stuff going on here. Tony says something about what are they known for, packing fudge. AJ makes a statement that he wants to go to Harvard or West Point, and then Tony even like makes fun of him for it. Like, yeah, you'll watch those things on TV. You ain't going there.
Yeah, well, he does have to crack the books. And speaking of cracking books, next we're cracking safes, because we open on a pretty good, I mean, that's a good cinematic choice of opening on this guard, and it looks like he's sleeping at first, and then the camera turns, and he's sleeping on the floor. Oh, there's blood there. What the fuck is going on? There's a guy shitting in the corner. Okay.
Chris and Matt and Sean, they're cracking safes, and Sean's taking a shit because, as they say, adrenaline affects everyone in different ways. Back in the day, Big Pussy took a big shit. They thought a bear did it, apparently.
Is he shitting on the floor?
Oh my
Because
god.
he's sitting really weird. Like, that's not how you sit when you're on a toilet. He's squatted over, like.
I guess,
in a-
yeah, I never thought of it. What a fucking extra insult to injury if he's just shitting on the floor. What an animal.
I mean, it seems like it, unless it was a Japanese squat toilet. I can't see mechanically how they can fit one under there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they just want to pretend there's a toilet there because it just worked for the shot. But or yeah, you could just take. I mean, he is a piece of shit, so maybe he's just shitting on the floor as an extra, like, fuck you to the police.
I mean, he takes a stocking and wipes his ass with it. There would have been toilet paper if there was a toilet there. And also, it's just another room in this building. It's clearly not a bathroom. It has a carpet. So, yeah, I think he's shitting on the floor.
I think you're right.
Further emphasize, I mean, it's good because it shows us these two guys fucking weird. These guys are so fucking, they're not just stupid, they're really weird and can't read signals at all of what you're supposed to do in any situation, building us up towards later in the episode.
Yeah, and they get this small nugget of information here that kind of buds into a shit tree, I guess, where they learn how, Big Pussy used to crack safes. It's like, why would that be some sort of like question? Because they're even like, wow, you mean Sal Bump and Sarah would crack at safes as well? And they're like, yeah, till he stood up for Johnny Boy's Soprano in the big unrest of '83 or whatever the hell it is he says. But they take from it as like, oh, like, as we see later on, like they need to do a thing. They need to step up. Much like Beansy was going to step up. And you look what happened when he stepped up. So it's not always a good idea to step up when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, they don't know what stepping up means. I'm like, oh, that's what you're right. That's what that meant. I thought it would have meant like, oh, even we can grow if we're patient and do our due diligence and keep cracking these safes. And by the way, I guess it is like they do a good job of showing that it's boring labor. We're just here hammering away and whatever. So it's kind of not glamorous. But still, as a viewer, I'm like, well, you're cracking safes. That's a bit of cat burglary. That's a little cooler than just beating up stockbrokers.
Yeah, I mean, and it is interesting because as we see this play out, like, because their big thing is, they're much like Christopher last season and kind of still Christopher in general. They think they're owed more, but it's like, I feel like if they just kept doing what they were doing, they definitely would have moved up because Tony does know who they are. And we'll get to the scene later on. He's just not like friends with them, but he knows who they are. They work the big card game. They're kicking up money. They're being good earners, but they're fucking dumb. So, and weirdos, like you said.
Yes, and I almost had like the Sopranos would never do this, but I had a flash of what happens in other shows where they just shoot it in one order and then broadcast it in a different order for some reason when they were like, oh shit, there's Tony. Oh, what are we going to do? And I was like, he was telling you what to do and then later he says like, oh, we were at the executive card game. And it's like, yeah, we know you were there. You were working for Tony, and you still can't see that you're moving up slowly, I guess. And you're so fucking, oh my God, it's Tony. Like the last time they saw him in the car when they were doing the big protest thing. They were coming up to their car. Hey, Tony, Mr. Mob Boss. And he was like, we fucking idiots. And he had to drive away. If that was the last time they saw Tony, then it would make sense that they're like, oh, we got to follow him into the bathroom to corner him. But, yeah, they're just that dumb, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it relates to what they're talking about here. They somehow think that, I mean, I think they even say, or maybe it's the other safe scene when they talk about like how it's an honor to kick up to T or whatever. Oh, and it's great how in that other episode he tried to call him T. But I think this is them thinking that it's like a move, like a step up. Like they're being like Sal Bump and Sarah. They're going to go in and say hi and I mean, it's hard to really get into Matt and Sean's mindset. They're fucking so dumb.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a scene where Carmilla can't sleep and she's watching these TV ads and talking about SAT scores, and it only matters how many buildings you buy. That's how you get into college. And we've talked about this before. It's nice that you and I never had to worry about these things, Jim, one way or another. But yeah, I can imagine Tony's just like, how like you want me to buy them a building? Like, what are you talking about? But this is like the start of her arc, which is all about getting a letter of recommendation from Janine Cusimano's sister, played by the same actress.
Yeah,
So,
which and like I said, I've watched this show a bunch of times. I've never paid attention enough to realize until now that yes, it was the same actress playing both of those characters.
yeah.
I honestly never thought about it. And I was like, wait a minute, is that the same? Like they're going with the old split screen special effects just for this character here? And yes, they are.
Yeah, I didn't think of it either, to be honest. Well, speaking of our Chip and Dale, they do show up to Richie's place, and I don't know exactly where this is, but we have seen it before. When oh, sorry, I totally messed this up. It's obviously not that yet. We're in
No,
Richie's place anyway, but it is it's Walnuts
yeah,
and
Silvio
Silvio.
show up, and
Yeah,
this is where they talk about building the ramp. And
yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Is this? They mentioned that he's a captain. Is this new information? Is this like? Did we realize this before? I can't quite remember.
I've like lost a bit of track on who's what in this situation. Because I, I think it's new. I mean, they certainly never said you're a captain now, son.
And they kind of do it in this scene to almost tell us that because he even says like you're a captain now. And what they're saying does make sense, though. I mean, we've seen similar things where, yeah, maybe you killed someone's son or you fucking did whatever, so you have to make peace with this small restitution. But yeah, to Richie, this is a weird way of admitting he was wrong, I guess. So he's not going to have that, and he's especially not going to have someone like Tony Soprano tell him that he has to build a ramp.
Yeah, which is if he is a captain now, he obviously doesn't want to build the ramp, but he doesn't want to kill Christopher Moltisanti either. So it's a bit of a balance strike.
And yes, so yeah, Jeannie and Carmela, that's what, yeah, Carmela goes over and finds Jeannie like working in her garden or something in the backyard and introduces this idea of writing a letter to Georgetown. And I do like this. I mean, we've seen it a little bit with the Cusamanos where, they like the idea of living next to a mob family, but then they also get very paranoid when they have to interact with them or do them a favor, I guess.
I think they lost some of that glamour after they got
Yes.
the box of sand or whatever it was that Tony filled with that we ended on in that one episode where they're standing there looking at it, and I that box swam up so vividly in my mind during this scene because it was like, oh, she's thinking of the box right now. She's thinking of it's like do this or you die, and I guess it is a question throughout. How much is Carmilla actually swinging that around, and how much is he just swinging around thinking that everything's going to work out for her because it's neighborly?
Yeah, I think Carmela knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the big thing of Carmela is that, she'll cry to her priest or what have you about the sin and this life, but as we've seen in the past, she couldn't live any other way. Like this, she loves everything that comes along with it as far as the house and the money and the security and the ability to send your kids to these colleges and stuff like that. So I feel like she knows exactly what she's doing.
Well, I feel like she knows exactly what she's doing in the later scene with the sister. In this scene, it felt a bit more comedic in my mind because she's there like just smiling like maybe come on please, I'm sorry to ask this, but at the same time, and we see the other character Jeannie look totally like terrified or like realizing, oh, this is one of them mob threats I see in the movies, and I don't think that's how she means it, not yet anyway.
Well, I do. I think she knows the intimidation she has because I go back to that scene with the recital when they mention that Meadow now has a solo, and then Carmela goes, "Oh, what a lucky break! I wonder what happened." But she knows exactly what happened. But yeah, I mean, I think she just knows that the intimidation's there. She's not necessarily playing to it, but I think she understands that no matter what, she can make this happen.
Yeah, speaking of intimidation and knowing no matter what you can make this happen, Richie goes to Beansy next, who's getting physical therapy and still got this collar around his neck. And the physical therapist steps out, and Richie tries to squeeze him for some information on, like, Why'd you go crying to Tony Sopranos? I would have built you the ramp if you'd just asked me. It seems like he's saying, which is crazy talk, isn't it?
It is, but also I think if he asked him, he would have, but he would have done it in a like, and then one day I may ask you for a favor, young B.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't have been without owing him something. Whereas this, maybe that's part of why he's annoyed too, is that he's being told to do it, so he's not going to get anything out of it in the back end.
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean, I can only assume that he's not getting any money from Beansy at this point. I mean, that was his whole thing. That's why he was beating him up, that he wanted a cut of like the pizza, a slice of the pizza, if you will, or sandwiches or whatever the fuck he sold. But it's not. But they still have this history and this relationship, so that's why he can lean in and say, hey, if you want to say something to me, you can say it to me, but don't go crying to Tony Soprano one more time, or I'll take away your arms too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Great Richie scene. And I do get the impression that Beansy really doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't
know.
He cried to him or anything like that. But then after that, we get a perfect Christopher Moltisanti proposal in the only way that Chris can do, where he's just banging on the door of Ade's mother's house. And I mean, it is interesting that like there was real fallout from Christopher's the way he acted in the last episode, because even though I knew Adriana was upset and she wouldn't talk to him at the confirmation party, I just assumed it was one of those things they'd be back together. But, you know, she's still upset. He poured his wine in his soup and embarrassed her. So Christopher has to like push her mother out of the way and steal the phone from her so she can't call 911. And he's like, I bought you a ring and everything. I want to marry you.
Yes, this does feel like a scene directly out of Goodfellas. Where we have, you know, I don't remember the characters' names, but, you know, showing up at your girlfriend's mother's place, and all the, like, furniture and curtains and stuff are all kind of different than what a modern person would have. And then you have this big shouting argument about I want to marry you, and then what does the mother think of this and that? As you said, it's a perfect mob proposal.
Yes. And it immediately wins Adriana over. He loves her ring, as we learn later. And then we get to Junior.
The jacket.
Junior and Tony are talking about bootlegs, and Richie shows up because he's kind of the connection. So they're talking a little business. Junior's out grocery shopping because he gets something from Tony's garden or whatever they're talking about. And I think it's interesting the way this plays out, besides the jacket that's going on, because Junior and Bobby are like in the background, but Junior's clearly listening to what they're talking about.
Yep.
And it's interesting because Richie, of course, is being Richie to Tony. But when Junior says like terrible accident that happened to that kid, then Richie kind of changes because he clearly like looks up more to Junior, both because it's definitely more like an age thing. And I guess I can understand it. Like if your kid's brother's friend is now your boss, you don't respect him. But then this elder, wiser man, like you look to him more as a leader because it's not as embarrassing, I guess. I don't know. But it's interesting the way Junior keeps kind of like popping into the conversation. But then, of course, we get the jacket.
Yes, which was in his trunk. So he was going to, even though he was mad about the ramp, he was still going to give the jacket, which adds to your theory that he maybe knows what he's doing a little bit. We have the whole scene from the beginning clip of this episode of Cut to Black. I'll say, like, I had a hard time reading Tony's expression towards the end. Like, didn't he look a bit touched? Or was he just embarrassed by this weird jacket?
It's hard to say. I mean, I definitely read it as like, I read it as, because even when he puts it on, well, because part of it is like Tony's obviously like a bigger dude. And when he puts it on, like it's not very flattering. He does that weird moment where he kind of like sniffs it, like sniffs.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. I think there's a little bit of that he appreciates the gesture, but then I think most of it is kind of this passive. He feels like it's this passive aggressive reminder of like, I'm the toughest guy. I took this jacket off the tough guy, and I'm just going to give it to you. and you've had things given to you or something,
Yeah, I mean, he sniffs it, and then his eyes do a little fluttery thing, and he says thanks, and that's when I was like, is it just the smell that's making your eyes flutter, or are you like feeling a stirring in your cold heart, Tony? Because I also like. They throw out a lot of things about the toughest guy in this county, and I beat him up, but he never showed his face. And your brother and or my little brother and you would have loved to have this. And I don't know the history exactly. Like it's hard for me to read just from that line. Did he and his brother actually want the jacket? So that's at the end of the scene. I read that as like, oh, he did want the jacket, but not like this, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think I could see that because I think it's just the fact that, like, he's pointing out that Richie took it off of a guy to show how tough he was, but he's just handing it to Tony. I think there's a lot there. But like the Tao says, you shut one door so you can open another door.
Yes. One way or another, he doesn't know what to do with this because Richie is acting very differently, and he does say thanks. And if you look at his face in the wide shot afterwards, he's kind of like, okay, I guess. Like he doesn't. He's used to just fighting with Richie, and this is like Richie being overly nice and maybe passive aggressive, but Tony does not know how to do that.
Yeah. Then we got Carmela finds a letter from Berkeley, and it says incomplete transcripts or something, like please get this information up to date or you'll lose your application, and she throws it in the trash.
Yeah, like I said, I thought that was Meadow. It revealed that Meadow had only applied to this college that they don't want her to go to. But no, it's just about Carmilla's character and her not wanting her little bird to fly too far from the nest. And I thought like, oh, wow, Carmilla's a terrible person. And then she comes back in the night, and I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like, because it would have been a very flat, boring thing if she just left it there, and then, like, Meadow finds it. It's better than she does this, and Meadow's like, what did you do to my letter? And it's like, yeah, she wishes she hadn't done that, and she had to, like, that's where it shows that there's more going on than just, like, I'm gonna get my girl into the school I want.
Yes, yeah, and again, like, she gets up in the middle of the night to take it out of the trash, so I mean, you could see that she's probably just sitting there thinking like, oh, why would I do that? Am I this person? Why would I do that to my child? And takes it out, but yeah, it's like covered in ash or something now, like food and shit.
Yes. So we get a second safe cracking scene in another business establishment, and yeah, we already mentioned kind of what they talk about it would be an honor to kick up to Tony, and Christopher says it comes out of your end. That's how it is in the beginning, and they're still, down with that. We're like, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah,
I feel like in the first safe cracking scene, the morsel of information that they take to heart is like how Big Pussy kind of did this grand gesture and then is moved up and now he's a captain. And then what they take from here is because then Christopher points out, can you imagine being in this office day after day, year after year? And I mean, if you are like a criminal where you get easy money and stuff like that, well, even when you have to work there, you're still like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to fucking come in here day after day, year after year. Yep. But they're taking that in their little minds to kind of as a shot at where they're at and thinking they're going to be stuck, even though, as we see, like when they're sitting in their apartment, they have all this shit. They have like stolen stereos, nice TV. They have like thousands of dollars. I mean, again, it's not like I'm not saying, hey, we should all strive to be this criminal, but you're sitting pretty and you don't have to do anything for the most part.
Yeah, and again, it makes these characters look pretty ridiculous, including the shitting thing. I don't know if you watch it with subtitles, but this time when he's applying hand sanitizer, it's just a subtitle parentheses farting, because he's just farting even after he's done, and it's like showing how ridiculous these characters are, kind of preparing us for what's to come.
Hey, no more burritos, or we're not doing another job together again. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Just could say the same about our podcast, right? But I said preparing, but I guess what I meant was the opposite of like making us not think that they're gonna do something like that.
Yes, yeah,
because they're ridiculous.
And yeah, we mentioned Carmela takes the letter from the trash. Then we cut back to Matt and Sean. They get to see Richie, and I like The reason why they get to see Richie is because they ask another guy, like, if they could talk to him. Because this other guy's like, oh, hey, they were in the neighborhood. They said they wanted to say hi.
Yeah.
Again, they're just always in awe of these mob guys who, as we know as the viewer, I mean, Tony Soprano's obviously doing really well. I mean, Richie's doing okay, but it's not like he's living in the lap of luxury. He's still just this fucking guy sitting in a smoke shop, whatever the fuck that place is that he's in all the time. But of course, they're in awe, and he starts making jokes about Chris Moltisanti's nose. He has a camel nose. And what do they say? You can't make that shit up. And he goes, "What are you talking about? I just did." He's so cool in the scene.
Yeah, he is. And like he says, if Christopher lays his hand on his niece again, I'm gonna tear him apart. But it's like Christopher doesn't even do that this episode. In fact, he asked him to get married, and he even said, and I mean, Richie doesn't know that yet, I would assume, but he did say, "Hey, give her your last name, then it's none of my business." So he's even more in the clear.
Yep.
These guys don't get it, though. They're all about listening to how his nose is natural canopy in the rain. He can still smoke. So, but it even says like the kid has his good points. And one of Chip and Dale, I don't know their names, is like, "Oh yeah, he's my homie."
He goes,
What?
He goes, "Oh, well, he lives near me or something like that." He's like, "Why don't you just say that? You want to talk like a Moulignon, go to slip and fall school?" Like,
What is that? Is that like what is that? Is that
I
like
don't know. I assume it's like, I mean, you could. Some people do fake like
like Slip and Jimmy.
Yeah, like Slip and Jimmy. So I assume he's referencing that somehow. Moulions are black people. I not that I've known that they're known for insurance scams more than anyone else, but to Richie they are. But it is interesting too, because like you said, in these other scenes, they don't seem really fed up. Like they're kind of still hanging with Christopher. They're happy to kick up money, but that just shows how like ADD short-sighted they are. Once they're around someone who makes fun of Christopher, now they don't respect Christopher. Although I guess they kind of didn't after when they had to buy the fish. That we did see some seeds of this there.
Yeah, there was a bit back and forth on that. But yes, they still respect Tony a lot, and they gotta know that Christopher works for Tony, right? So it's still very stupid. So we did skip over the scene where the guys show up to install the ramp, and the wife is like, "Get the fuck out of here." And it is funny that it's so clearly just Tony who wants this ramp to be built. No one else wants this ramp to be built. Beansy doesn't want Richie in his life. He doesn't want Richie's people in his house widening his doorways. He wants that as far away, and he doesn't want Richie to be any more mad at him, which is the whole reason he was in this mess. But Tony's doing that just to sort of put Richie in his place. Of course, his wife, nobody told her this was happening. So when someone shows up and they're working for the guy who mutilated your husband, and hey, we want to mutilate your house too, of course she's not enthused about it.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I never really thought about it. I guess it's the ramp is like Tony's jacket, basically.
Yeah,
that he's giving to Richie. They're both doing this weird passive aggressive, like Tony's showing his, power as the boss to kind of make him do this, irregardless to how it's negatively affecting Beansy and his family. I mean, it's a good idea, but yeah, it's almost like. I mean, they do bring up the car again, and it's not quite the same thing as that, or the truck that he gave Meadow. But it's almost like if Tony really cared, he could have just had some guys go out there and put a ramp in and stuff. He didn't have to make it be Richie that's doing it. It's not like I think that's going to like cost Tony a lot of money. He has these weird construction guys and these union deals. He could definitely have pulled some strings and just made them put in a ramp and stuff.
Yes. So both Richie and Tony are ramping it up in their own ways. Then we move on to the scene with the two sisters. I guess there's not really maybe there's a split screen in here, but they just do over the shoulder shots.
There's one
kind of
because that's the only thing I would thought about. There's one wide shot where she faces she puts her back to her sister and like walks towards camera, and you see the sister in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's only one. Everything else is over the shoulder.
But yes, the scene is basically like it's just her saying, "No, of course I'm not doing that," and that's about that,
Yeah, and it's I like the like where she's like, I'm a Nigerian boy who's 5.2 grade point average, and she says it in a way, even though I don't know anything about this character, I just feel like she's not like she's doing it, but not out of a genuine care. It's kind of just another like braggadocious thing to say, like, oh, I helped a Nigerian boy who lives in the projects or whatever.
Yeah, she does say that she has a reputation to uphold, which is why she can't recommend some mobster's daughter and doesn't want them in her alma mater or anything like that. So that also goes hand in hand with, well, of course, I have to recommend someone who's the perfect person to recommend.
Yeah.
So there's another family dinner where we get to see Carmilla's parents again. They haven't been around for a while.
Mm. And then Richie and Janice show up, and they add a couple more places. And I believe Richie asks about the jacket again here.
I mean, of course.
And I mean, Tony can't help but take a small ding at Janice when Carmella's like, "Oh no, don't get up, Janice, don't get up." And but Janice is drinking wine.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, Janice, don't get up. And he also has to take a snipe at Richie because he calls Livia Ma because they're working on Ma's house.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that Meadow shows up late and finds her Berkeley letter. Well, Carmilla gets the call from Jeannie that her sister's not going to write the letter.
Yes, and this is Jeannie trying to be less of a pushover, as like, oh yeah, great, okay, I gotta go, bye. Still sort of running away by hanging up the phone, and so of course Carmilla goes over to this office. With food, as you do, it's your weapon, and if you give someone food, then they have to do what you say. It's old Italian magic.
And she kind of, she lays it on thick, but like also, even when she has the idea of like, oh, I thought about that, you could say that, oh, the Nigerian boy, Georgetown wasn't actually his first choice. He was using it as a backup, like some convoluted thing to make the Nigerian boy kind of a piece of shit, basically. But the thing I gotta wonder, what she says, like, I'm an officer of the court, and then Carmella's like, well, you're a lawyer, like she corrects her. I guess, do you buy that what's her sister's name? Joan? No, not Joan. What the hell is her sister's name?
I don't know.
Oh no, okay, it is Joan. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Do you buy that she's intimidated that she goes to go through with this letter?
No, not really. That's what's kind of surprised me on this. Because it's almost like there's a scene missing or something of her reading in the news about Beansy getting killed or no, yeah, reading about Christopher Moltisanti getting shot or whatever. And maybe Carmilla mentions Christopher. I mean, this is stupid, obviously, but I'm just saying it's kind of surprising that she does it because she's so adamant, like, no, of course I'm not doing that. And she's not really given any extra reason to do it, especially considering that I almost thought it could go the other way, where she is, an officer of the court or whatever. That is true, and she knows the law. And although maybe that means, I guess what Carmilla is doing is like not even a little bit illegal if you think about it, but it's still kind of a threat. But I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I guess I'm with you. It does feel like a weird leap, like that she would go there to do it. But also, I'm with Carmilla. Like, you send one letter, you can't send another letter. Is that really a thing? Like, she can't send two. But either way, what we get from it is that Carmilla's not afraid to kind of throw her weight around. I guess it does make sense. Like, if Joan did try to like go to the courts, that would be even worse for her reputation. Because what did she do? She showed up and gave her food and asked her to write.
Yes, that's true. But if anything more was to come of it, if they actually made good on this implied threat, she's trying to say, like, I'm not some pushover, but hey, that's what Beansy said. So, maybe she'll need a ramp in the future. Yeah. Then we have the scene in the bathroom, like we mentioned, where first they're just sitting around and looking at all these other losers in the strip club and kind of realizing, like, shit, we really got to do something. I think this is where they come to that realization, right?
Yes, yeah, because it's kind of they're taking what Chris said about day after day, year after year, and they're looking around. There's a lot of old guys hanging out in the Bing. Although I don't think those guys were cracking safes and connected guys. I think they're just kind of losers that go to the strip club. If you're fed up with that, you just don't have to go to the strip club all the time unless you're there for business. But
Also, I gotta apologize. That scene is actually later because that's after they get extorted by Fiorio and all that. So they don't look around the strip club yet.
no, that's that, for my notes. That's the Furio scene's after this one.
Yes, but in this scene, they don't look around at the guys. That's in the later one. There's a later one.
Sure, because I have it. I thought I had it in my notes that they're at the Bing here, and this is where they're looking around. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I got the episode up here on my side screen. So, yes. They just see Tony is like the start of this scene. And they're looking at the strippers, and then they go in and talk to Tony about how they'd like to break one off in that stripper's ass.
Right. Okay. I mean, because it's kind of like the same scene then. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I got you now. Yeah, because they are at the Bing, but they're not at that realization yet. They see
Yes.
Tony, and yeah, they go in. Yeah, I want to break my dick off in his ass. And then Sean's just washing his hands the whole time.
Yes.
And he,
Now he doesn't need to use the bathroom. Come on, Sean. You got all your shit out of there, I guess. In these
Yeah.
two separate scenes we've seen you use the bathroom. Now you're actually in a real bathroom. You can't get to it. You just gotta wash your hands. Man.
And then he has to bring up the safes and kicking up money. And of course, Tony, you ever heard of fucking wires or wiretaps? And then Sean's like, you always do that to Matt. He's like, you always get quiet. Leave me in the motherfucking cocksucking wind. I love his line reading on there.
Yes. Yes. So now Richie's hanging out again in front of the meat shop, and Tony wants to buy him a coffee and just talk to him a little bit about this whole ramp situation still. And this is where we find out, yeah, no, I had to have them go, or what does happen in this scene, actually? Now
Well,
that I think about
you're
it.
right. Before Tony shows up, Paulie and Sylvia are talking to Richie about the ramp, and then, yeah, they're like, Beansy's wife said your guys are out there. They tore everything up, and they haven't been back since. And like I had to pull them off that job to work on Janice's mother's house, which, if you remember correctly, is also our boss's mother's house. Like, Tony gives a fuck about that house, by the way.
Yes. Yes, which, I mean, he is acting like they're acting like if you got any construction work crew off the street to do it, the exact same thing would happen. They would just do it and then leave, and then you didn't like trying to call them and you can't reach them. That does happen. So maybe he's just acting according to, I don't know, union rules or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know about that, but yeah. Then Tony shows up. I think he asks him about the jacket again, and he says it's in the car. He's trying to tell Richie to kind of calm down a little bit. I read if they talk about anything else in particular, because he's still kind of annoyed about the ramp.
Yes. I mean, this is the shortest episode, and I do notice that some of these scenes are kind of short, sort of jumping us from here to there in the story. And we have Mrs. Cusimano showing up again now and saying, hey, she actually did write the letter. And at this point, I even thought, did she write the letter? Did she, like, fake a letter?
Yeah, I was wondering that too, but Carmela does ask for a copy of it. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'll get that for you. No problem.
And then we have the scene with Furio showing up to get some extra money out of these guys. And they're really sort of nice and respectful, and they actually don't mind kicking up money like they said earlier. But then they have to ask for another 1,000, and I don't know. Who asked for that extra 1,000? Like, what's going on there, Jim?
Well, Furio just realizes that these guys are easily pushovers, basically, like, because they're kind of being too, like, thankful to give money.
Yeah.
And so Furio's like, you know what? I want $1,000 for me. So give me $1,000 right now. I mean, before that, because they're even like when Furio's banging on the door, when he tries to hide his bong and he just like puts a shirt over it. And then, but then they have a gun, and they don't they don't know where to put the gun. They're just sitting there in their underwear watching music videos. They're smoking, and they're annoyed that there's they don't want to kick the bass up on that TV. Yeah, Furio comes in to collect the money. They're like offering him drinks and shit. And then Furio's like, I'm tougher than these guys. Give me $1,000.
So Furio, not as great of an investment as he seemed, maybe, because this causes someone to get shot, basically, that he just decided to grab an extra 1,000.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I think things were building either way where they thought they had to make a change.
Yeah.
And you're right. This is kind of like a tipping point, almost, that does push them over to make them feel like, because they are happy to kick up money, but now they feel like shit that they're just being bossed around, and these two suck each other's cocks,
Yep.
or whatever. And it's the best thing that Furio does. Never mind shaking them down for $1,000. Never mind making fun of their underwear that's on the wall or whatever it is, and that they suck each other's cocks. It's the fact that he doesn't close the door when he leaves. He just walks out, leaves the door open. It's such a fucking alpha insult move.
Well, he could have got one up that and just grabbed the TV when he left. HD already. Very good TV. This is not my accent. So yeah, and also these guys suck each other's cocks. What is he in our fucking comment section, Jim? Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, leave a review on iTunes, everybody. So we have Christopher and Adriana in bed, and he says, "If I knew it was gonna keep getting better, I would have asked you to marry me sooner." And she's like it wasn't always good, and Christopher gets to have a little nice chat about how he realized he was losing focus. It's going to be no more drugs, no more getting shot. He's going to be on the straight and narrow from here on out. And boy, it's all going to be easy living.
Yeah, I mean, these are, in hindsight, scenes where people make declarations that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's why he's talking about. But it's nice because it does make sense, at least from Christopher, because even if what happens at the episode doesn't happen, it just feels like Christopher will be in a good mood and think he's going to fix things. And then 2 days later, he's crying about his script and like smoking fucking crack or whatever. So,
yes, yes, absolutely. So then, speaking of betrayals, like we'll see later, the worst betrayal in this episode is clearly when Richie shows up to the house and he brings something.
It's like
remotely,
some tomatoes or some weird tomatoes that he made. And the thing that's so heartbreaking about this scene is Richie's being so sweet in this scene to Carmela. Like, he's really happy, and I think Carmela's really happy to see him as well. And they're kind of just BSing about Janice, and Carmela thinks the kids are going to be so excited for the tomatoes or whatever it is that he brought over. He has some line, but I couldn't make out what he says. Where he's like, "You and I are the only two." Do you still have it up with subtitles?
I'll try to find it. Yeah.
It's like right after he gives her the food, he says he makes, I think it's like a pun joke about the tomatoes or whatever that he gives.
It's not tomatoes. It's like the name of the dish.
Okay.
Whatever it is, like tarp or tart.
Yeah.
Something like that. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. No, you're right. Here's some tripe and tomatoes I made, which is apparently a dish.
And then towards the end of that, he goes, "You and I are the only two that's something something."
Yeah. I'm just Googling tripe and tomatoes here, but it comes up tripe and tomatoes Sopranos. Google auto suggests for me. Just I think I can Google that without spoilers, and yes, indeed, it is this scene. Everyone else who's trying to figure out what the fuck is in that glass little pan thing.
Well, because I mean, I even she brought a regot pie to the Cusimano, and I don't really even know what that is.
Yeah, and you're,
ricotta pie. Okay, they're a ricotta that they call regot.
But anyway, not only is he not wearing the jacket, not only is it in the closet buried under everything, it's also underlined that, we have this extra TV or whatever. We give things we don't need to the maid and her husband, and the husband comes in wearing what if not the jacket.
The jacket. It's a beautiful jacket. It's a nice jacket. It's a beautiful jacket.
Well, he is a mechanical engineer. He's from Poland, so he might be closer to Essex than any of these other characters.
But now he drives a cab here. It's so sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Richie looks so heartbroken. By the way,
the look on his face, and then he's even like, "I gotta get out of here." He's like, "I gotta go." Like, he can't even contain himself. He's got to get out of there.
I'm gonna cry. So then we have the scene with back in the Bing, looking around at all these old losers just sitting here, just like us.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we're gonna do day after day, year after year. I don't think so. We're Matt and Sean. We're gonna turn things around.
Yeah. Again, is this just a conversation we're having between you and me, or is it in the show? I don't know. We will be here all year, everyone. Please check in and subscribe for all your Sopranos coverage. They decide to do something. I can't, like, it's, like, let's talk about the ending, because it's so out of the blue and yet makes perfect sense because they've made these characters so weird. Like, it makes sense, and like I see it when like in the way they shoot it when Christopher's kind of like, oh hey, and then we see him in the window kind of like, oh hey Christopher, whatever he says, and just in that shot you can tell that something's gonna happen because I don't know, because of the way they shoot it, but it's still like, what the fuck, you guys are so stupid. And it's like, wait, what was the plan here? Like trying to understand it, and then later when they show up like, yeah, because you know you hate him, so we killed him, right? So now you want to bump us up, we're with you now. And it's like, wow, this is like really what happens when you give anyone a gun. Like USA.
Yeah. Yeah. Richie's reaction is perfect because he's like, who asked you to do that? And it's like, you hate him. He hit your niece or whatever. And he's just like, no, you fucking moron. And yeah, we're with you. You got to hide me. You got to protect me. And then he's, of course, chases him down the street with a bat. And I think he even says that's beforehand. He's like, that's all I need is that fucking backstabbing, ungrateful, Tony Soprano think I had anything to do with this because he's already hurt about the jacket.
Oh yeah, that's the backstab. I didn't even realize. You're right. And okay, so now as they're dying, I will learn their names. What is the name of the guy who gets killed? Is that Sean?
Sean, yes, and I think they put this out on the wiki, but it's because of his seatbelt, much like Livia Soprano was saying. His seatbelt gets stuck, so he gets a bullet in the head, and then Matt is like very sad about that because it's his friend, and they're just kind of shooting back and forth as he's running away.
And while this is shocking, I'll say, even as he's getting shot, I feel like, and maybe this show will prove me wrong in the future, it's just something you get used to from watching TV. I feel like in that moment, I know Christopher is going to be okay. Like, I don't think he's going to die. If they'd shot him in the head, like, because it would have been such a dumb anticlimactic end, it would be like something that would happen in Game of Thrones, but worse because it's just out of nowhere. It felt like. So I felt like this is shocking, obviously, but it's still not a huge moment for me, Sopranos-wise. It's kind of like, whoa, that was fucking weird. And I'm like, okay, he'll probably be walking way quicker than Beansy, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. I see what you're saying, though, too. I mean, I guess in the moment, probably in the moment when it's just season 2 of the show and this happens at the end of the episode, it's probably way more of a like what the fuck moment, where it feels like anything can happen. But yeah, with the way things play out here and what's happening, it does seem like it's more about what this could mean for like Tony and Richie and just these like characters and how they're going to deal with this happening rather than setting up a big death. But there is a death that happens, so there is one Sean who we do see die.
Yep.
So we got to go ahead and add that to the fucking counter. And I'm even trying to remember, how does my counter go again?
Well, I don't know.
Here we go.
Sound.
Yeah, we ready?
Yep. I almost thought it was going to be like, well, it sounds like he says "Gatsamalanga," but he's actually saying the jacket in a really weird accent, and that's why we were saying I would never look at it the same way. So for everyone listening at home, we are at now 18 confirmed kills against 8 confirmed walkouts.
Well, we did skip the scene where we basically almost had a walkout, but Tony got the better of himself and decided he was just going to sit there, but he's done talking. So it is kind of some growth for Tony Soprano because he doesn't storm out angrily, but he gets angry enough that he's not going to talk anymore.
Tony's such a tease in that scene because he says like he's gonna leave, and she even says like, but we still have time, and I'm like, well, if they still have time and he leaves, we know it's a confirmed walkout, and he's like, no, I'm just gonna sit here and be a mature man about this and wear my suit. Why is he wearing that suit? He looks really fancy, like he's going to a big event.
Oh yeah, he's wearing a suit. I don't think I noticed it initially. In their therapy scene, they kind of do go over what we already spoke about with the Happy Wanderer. It is interesting that they revisit this to kind of explain it here. I guess they kind of put a little bit more of a twist on it because they try to twist it into being a good thing. At least that's what Melfi's doing, and that's what kind of makes Tony upset. Is I guess he doesn't want to think that it's a good thing. I mean, because it's still not a good thing, but
it's enlightening her about the ambiguities of the world, and she can't think it's all black and white and stuff like that. And it did strike me that this scene is basically like a Sopranos sit down where they sit down and discuss the previous episodes and like, but what did Tony mean when he did this? And that's like what the therapy scene does here. And it's interesting how therapy, what it is in this show, is changing and can be different things at different times, because I really did think at the beginning like, oh yeah, this is the big framing device of the show or whatever, and I don't know, we haven't even seen it in a bit, and now we're back here and he's wearing his nice suit, which makes me almost wonder if there's like a scene they cut out of this episode where he wears the suit, because he doesn't wear it in the hospital later and he doesn't wear it before then, so it's almost like, did he dress up to go do therapy and be civilized and not move, or was there maybe some other scene?
Or, I mean, I forget what else they talk about in this scene. Could this scene have been from that episode? No, because he does say, when she says the Happy Wanderer, he goes, how the fuck do you remember this shit?
Yes.
A great line. And I do like that they mention, you know, like how Meadow's growing up and she's going to leave the nest or the family, and they kind of go towards the ducks, and then he's just like, Tony's like, I don't want to hear about these fucking ducks again.
Well, yeah, that's almost why he storms out, right? I mean, it's the ducks, and what else is it that? Oh, you made it sound. It was kind of surprising because he's like, oh, you made it sound like I did something good when I tried to rub her face, and then this shitty thing I did.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it is weird because it is almost like you could take this scene out and it wouldn't have changed the episode too much. It is like a Sopranos sit down real quick to break down some of the stuff, but they do twist it, I guess, a little bit to how it affects Tony. I mean, I guess the only other thing really left is it is weird that Tony's like, how could this happen? Because I don't feel like it's a surprise that someone could be shot.
Yeah.
So it is a little weird because, I mean, we see Tony and like he's clearly disheveled and, you know, broken up, which, you know, is understandable. Like he does love Christopher, but it's just interesting. He's like, how could this happen? It's like, well, you know how it could happen pretty easily.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, this earlier therapy scene, it starts with him sitting there like, oh, I don't even know what we're going to talk about. And he's like, oh, spin the wheel. We'll talk about this. Hey, here's something. And they have done a job of, like, when he's talking about Happy Wanderers and all this, and since he's been back in therapy, he's been saying, like, by all accounts, everything's going great. Like, I'm doing well. Why do I feel so bad? Why do I feel this dread? And they've been talking about the dread of knowing that death will come for us all, with what AJ's been wondering about in the previous episodes and stuff. So I guess if they wanted that line to land of like, how could this happen? Maybe there should have been something about, I don't know. You're right. It is a weird line. I almost feel like they've established that everything's going well, but he's feeling this dread. So it almost would have made more sense if he'd said like, I knew it. Like I knew it wasn't going to be good forever.
Yeah. Or I guess maybe it is it's like that, but it's like, you know, you go through life expecting something bad to happen, but then you're still surprised when it does.
Yeah.
Maybe. But either way, so I mean, it's a solid way to end an episode, because it's like, oh, what's gonna happen next? No, not even a cool music, not even a cool song to go over the credits. Just the you know, the hospital beeps of the heart monitor. And
I think it did also feel more intense towards the end of last season, because what was brewing then was a genuine conflict with a lot of like, if something violent happens, it means it's going to escalate. And at this point, it's like, yeah, I guess it will escalate, but because more of misunderstandings, and he's going to think Richie had something to do with it, something like that, where it's really just a couple of idiots, and this is going to be more or less like a coincidental thing that just sets off this powder keg, I guess, and makes everything worse. Is my my guess. I know you can't comment too much, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess either way, it is interesting how they set up things in the beginning of the season, and you think it's going to go a certain way, and like clearly they go out of their way to not do that. Like, if you just watch the first episode when Richie shows up, you're like, oh, this is how it's going to be. Richie's going to keep undermining Tony, and there's going to be this building conflict, and they do that, but then not really. Then things are really settled down, and even with like Big Pussy. Like they reveal very early, I mean, it's like the second episode or third or whatever it was, that he's talking to the feds. And I mean, we've seen some big moments with that, but it's not what you expect. You expect there's always going to be this, like, either these scenes where Big Pussy thinks someone knows and he's getting all paranoid, or that Tony almost finds out, or this and that, more wiretaps. But everything's kind of played pretty grounded, and it just feels like more circumstance than this budding conflict.
I guess he did kill an Elvis impersonator. That wasn't super grounded with a hammer or whatever it was. So, so yeah. But apart from that, I agree.
Yeah. No,
we also skipped over the scene where Carmilla talks to Meadow, where Meadow comes in like all upset that the maid cleaned her room, and Carmilla, she says like, oh, I can take care of myself. And that's kind of Carmilla's moment of realization. You know what? You're right. You're right. And it is like a good moment for her. I guess what's happening before in that storyline is to show that she's trying to fix everything and be in charge and be the mother hen and protect her child and make sure she doesn't go too far away and everything. But it's almost like maybe she should have failed at getting the letter then, if she's going to realize this, that Meadow can do it on her own. Like, she still got the letter, so I don't know exactly what this scene means for her development.
Well, it was a little of both, because she also was ready to be like, oh, you could do it yourself. Do you know what? And she could have went into the, like, I've been going on back and forth to get this letter for you to help you get into Georgetown. But again, I think it's a little of realization that, yes, she can do it herself, but it's also some realization of, like, if she does tell her what she did about the letter, it's just going to push her away more. And even if she did get into Georgetown, like, now she's just like not going to want to go out of spite type deal.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both. It's like kind of some good growth, but also like kind of scheming in a way, I guess, like realizing the manipulation of a parent. And I think she even may have mentioned, or maybe Tony mentioned it to Carmilla before, just of how, like, these things you do to, like, kind of hold on to your kids, just push them away. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, we have now managed to talk for over an hour, about a 43-minute episode. So I'd like to thank y'all for joining us. And of course, we will be covering the next episode, season 2, episode 9. Do you have any words I'm not going to hear the same way after that episode, like last time? Like maybe some sort of trench coat or boots?
Purgatory.
Okay. So that'll be interesting. That's a nice little tease. The next episode is called From Where to Eternity, which is interesting. And yeah, we're talking about that next week. Please do leave a review on iTunes if you have the ability to do so, which you do if you have the internet, which I assume you do. You're listening to this. Thank you very much to those who have left reviews. If you want more from Jim, please do check out jimandthem.com, and me, Jacob Burrows. I'm located at awesomepedia.org. Of course, you can find all our shows at showswhatyouknow.com. Anything else, Jim?
Well, there's one more thing.
What's that?
Cut to black.